So my doctor's a fucking idiot. I took too much ibuprofen and it gave me mouth ulcers. Because I had my tongue pierced, he thought it'd be a smart idea to give me antibiotics. The antibiotics he gave me gives you mouth ulcers. So the antibiotics caused even more mouth ulcers, and I was in so much pain I had to go to hospital last night and they gave me some heavy duty painkillers. But I'll just show you my tongue because it hurts too much to pull my lip down or lift them up to show you those. But so yeah, that was about, I don't know, a quarter of all of the mouth ulcers I have. They go all around here, along the top to the under my tongue. So I just hope that I feel better soon because they hurt like a motherfucker. Hi. What you just saw was what happened after I had my tongue pierced. They were my Instagram stories that I put up to update people on what was going on. So I'm going to explain everything here because that's all I ever posted before was those 2 clips. So I'm going to explain it all here, what happened from the beginning. So last year I decided I wanted to get a bunch of piercings. So I got my nose done, I got my ears done, and ever since I was a teenager, I had a friend who had her tongue pierced and I thought she was the coolest thing ever. I always thought I probably wouldn't ever do it. I was too scared. But after I got everything else done, I just really wanted to get another piercing. And my tongue piercing was the one that I kept thinking about, so I geared myself up and I got it. Now, where I think I went wrong was that I usually go to the same guy. I have like my guy, as it were. His name is Cryptic Jim on Instagram. I'll link him below because he's definitely worth visiting if you are in the Northamptonshire area. He is a really good piercer. So I'd had all my other piercings done by him, but for my tongue, I wanted to go somewhere else just to try out this other piercer that's around, and they were a little bit cheaper for the tongue piercing and I didn't have that much money at the time, so I thought I will try this person out. I won't say who they are because I'm going to say some pretty bad things about them. But yeah, I went to this person and the piercing itself seemed to go fine. I dribbled loads, so that was gross. But it went fine. It didn't hurt that much at all. It was just more awkward. But I went home, first night was fine, you know, mouthwash, all that stuff. And the next day I went out to the shops. So I went to this Chinese grocery store that I like to visit. And when I was paying, I could feel something weird with my tongue. It was all swollen, obviously, because I'd just had it done the day before. And just the ball, I could feel it just come off. It just come off the underside. So I start panicking. I'm trying to get my little compact mirror out my bag, putting it on the counter, and the lady's looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm trying to do it all up inside, but I can't get my tongue to come out my mouth by this point. On the first day I could still get my tongue out my mouth a bit, but come next day I couldn't get my tongue to do this. You know, it wouldn't do anything. So I actually had to grab the bar and hook it on my bottom tooth so I could get the ball back on. That really hurt. I could hear my tongue making this like ripping noise. Oh, it was just horrendous. And I wouldn't get my tongue pierced again, purely because of this experience. I don't want it done again. And it wasn't even meant to be a temporary piercing anyway for about a year. So technically it's due to come out, but because of what I went through to get it, I am going to keep it in longer. Anyway, so I went home. I ate lots of ice cream because my tongue was so painful by this point. And I took an extra ibuprofen because my tongue started swelling up even more after this had happened. So I took like 3 ibuprofens that evening and it seemed to work a bit, so I was like, yeah, that's good. But the next day I woke up and it was even more swollen, so I took another 3 in the morning. And then I was eating, I think, mashed potato, and so I really was wanting something hot and like a proper meal, not just like soupy type stuff. And as I was eating it, it came off again, and this is the day after it happened before, and that was the day after I had it pierced. So 3 days in a row it was getting this trauma. I was freaking out and trying to put it back on, and I managed to get it just back on, but then I decided, screw this, I'm going into the piercing studio and getting them to tighten up this ball because they obviously haven't done it up tight enough. It just keeps coming off. It was humping it down with rain. It was so bad, and I had to take both my daughters because it was the holidays, and I took them in and I said, my tongue piercing keeps falling out. I had it done 2 days ago. What is that? Excuse that. Red map. I had it done 2 days ago. and it just keeps coming off, and it's so painful. I had to again hook it onto my teeth so I could feel that ripping sensation, and I just knew it was going to be even more painful that night. So I wanted it done up tight this time. And the piercer said to me, "You've got your kids with you. I can't do that." And I'm like, "I'm not asking you to pierce me again. I'm asking you to tighten some balls. Just tighten the balls for me, which you should have done properly the first time round." They refused to do it and sent me back out in the rain, and I was just livid. And so I called up my usual place, Pulse, which is where Cryptic Gym works, and I asked if he was working, and they said he was. And so I went in there, and he gladly tightened it up for me, no problem. Didn't care that the kids were there. They just sat in the waiting room for like a second. It doesn't take long to tighten balls, do you know what I mean, if you know what you're doing. Then the big problem happened that evening because my tongue was insanely swollen. So I'm taking ibuprofen again. I'm just taking 3 now. Straight up, just taking 3 ibuprofen to get that swelling down. I just want it down. And I was having ice lollies, ice cream, just constantly trying to get this swelling down. It was so bad. And I think it was like the next morning I woke up and I had these ulcers on my tongue. And it was just like kind of on the sides, just a few, but they were really painful. So I was like, oh God, okay, I'm going to take some more ibuprofen to get these ulcers to go away, or to at least make them less painful while I'm dealing with the tongue situation from the piercing. So I do that for about a day, and then the next day I wake up and my mouth is riddled with all these ulcers. They were all on the insides of my lip, all in my cheeks, under my tongue. They were on the top of my lips, like on the insides. My God, that was the worst pain ever. It was just so horrible. I wasn't talking. I didn't want to eat. I was just putting cold stuff in my mouth and Bonjela everywhere. I had like this other dental numbing stuff that I got because it was just so much pain. I'm still taking all these ibuprofen because it's just so painful, and I'm thinking I just need to kill this pain. It needs to go away. And then that night I'm having a really rough time of it. I found out online that ibuprofen can cause mouth ulcers. So because I was overdosing on ibuprofen, I was giving myself mouth ulcers, and then because of the pain from the mouth ulcers, I was taking them again for pain relief, which was causing more mouth ulcers. I call up 111, which is the emergency number for out of hours doctors, because I was crying. I was just crying, and I was cussing the piercer. If they'd just done the job properly the first time, I would have been fine. They said to go to the hospital. And so, because they thought it might be an infection or something. I was like, no, it's just like ulcers, but they said go to the hospital anyway. So I went to the hospital. It was like 11 o'clock at night. When I'm there, I'm just crying. My lips were sticking to my teeth because of the ulcers on them. It had dried out my entire mouth, and they'd just stick to my teeth. And so I was just constantly up and down to the lady at the reception asking for water just to keep putting liquid in there because the sticking was so painful. I finally saw the doctor, and he said, well, because you've got this piercing which is fresh, you've got all these ulcers, you're more likely to get an infection, so I'm going to give you some antibiotics. So this doctor gave me some antibiotics to take home and some like little pill things that you put on the ulcers to help them go away. And so I took one that night, and I took another one of antibiotics the next morning, and my mouth was getting worse. Like at this point, like you could see the ulcers and they'd start falling off. And I think what was happening is more ulcers were forming underneath the other ulcers, and they just flake off. Like, and then you'd see another ulcer underneath it. And it's just like, oh, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. And so I'm crying again that evening. And I look at the side effects on the antibiotics because I'm confused. I'm like, why is this getting worse? I'm not taking ibuprofen anymore, and I'm getting more mouth ulcers. And I look at the side effects, and it says mouth ulcers is one of the most common side effects with this antibiotic. And I said, what? Why did the doctor do this? Why would he give me medicines that give me more mouth ulcers to treat mouth ulcers, you know, or to prevent an infection? I was so upset. So I ended up calling 111 again. They told me to go to hospital again. Gave me like crazy painkillers. You can see on the clip at the beginning, I think I mentioned about that, is to help get rid of the pain because it was so much. And they said that they shouldn't have given me those antibiotics because it did just exacerbate the situation. Yeah, eventually I did start to go down after that point. The little pill things were kind of nice, and I still kept using the numbing gel, ice lollies, ice cream, everything just to try and get it down. So the number one thing to learn there is do not overdose on your medication. It should go without saying, but sometimes when you're in pain and you're desperate, you will do a little bit extra to get out of that pain. And that's what I did. I was stupid. I don't recommend doing that. And if you get your tongue pierced, go to someone that you've had piercings done before, or someone that you trust, or if you haven't had piercings before, someone's recommended to you personally. I just went to this person because I'd heard good things, you know, and I'm sure they're fine in general, but this time they made a mistake. They didn't do it tight enough, and then I had the issue and they weren't prepared to help me. That's my problem. And I'll never go to that studio again for anything. Not a tattoo, not a piercing, nothing. Just because of that experience. I'll always go to my current guy. So, you know, stick with what you know. But yeah, that's everything. I just wanted to give you a little natter about my worst piercing experience. I do have other piercing experiences that are bad. But not, this was like the one. This was the one that was the worst. And I'll never do it again. Okay, so that's everything for this video. If you like this video, please let me know by giving me a like below. If you've got any of your own horror stories that you want to let me know, or anything similar, if you've had a similar experience to me, definitely let me know in the comments below. I've never met anyone else who's had a similar experience to this, with like ulcers with ibuprofen, who knew? And yeah, I will chat to you soon. Bye.